Scarlett Blade. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Silent Night, Memoirs of a Royal Guard, Chapter 14. Completely refreshed from my extra-long and mandatory vacation, I was more than ready to start work again. Mercifully, the pink coat potion wore off without any kind of antidote. Leave it to Runic to have a potion not work as advertised. Not that I would have complained in this case. "You seem awfully excited about getting back to work," Iridescent said from across the table. She had a great poker face and was using it on me then. I wasn't sure if it was because we were playing a game or for some other reason that I hadn't understood. I smiled a bit and moved my figure closer to a couple of zombies and rolled the dice. 2 hits, I said, and then added, "I am. I love my job." Iridescence nodded and moved her figure. "It will be nice to have you come relieve me again. It is odd working with another pony." That was certainly true. Not seeing Iridescence at work was strange. I had been seeing her more at home as a result, but somehow we had less to talk about. We ended up playing lots of games. Agreed. Getting back to normal will be great. Normal indeed, she said, rolling the dice. Speaking of which, we've been doing a lot of the same thing lately. Would you mind if we do something different for our next date? Looking up, I nodded. Of course, let me know what you'd like to do and I'm on board. Iridescent smiled and went, "Great. Also, tomorrow we're taking Princess Luna to Equestria Writers' Convention." "I'm doing what now?" I asked, my attention pulled from the game. "A convention?" My unicorn companion was grinning widely. "Oh yes, Princess Luna's favorite author is going to be at the show, and she let the captain know she wanted you to go. They both felt like you're the perfect pony to take her." "What exactly does the convention entail?" I asked. "Oh, nothing too exciting, just tons of ponies going to panels, booths, and dealer tables. They'll be chasing autographs from authors. Your mission is to keep the princess safe and, more importantly, be sure she gets to meet CW. Iridescence explained. "The rest of us will make sure the venue remains secure." I pondered that a bit. Social events were typically Iridescence's place. If I was there, I always just sat in the background. Me alone with the princess seemed like a strange plan. Why me? Iridescence explained, "Princess Luna feels that in this type of setting one guard is more appropriate, and that if you aren't chosen to be that guard, you'll probably show up in a silly costume to protect her anyway." I blinked. "Really?" She laughed and shook her head. "No. She just feels safe with you, and we both agree you could use more social experiences." "We agree? We who?" I asked. "Luna and I," she said plainly. "Princess Luna and you? You discuss me?" Iridescence got up and softly patted me on the hoof. "Of course, we're friends, and friends discuss their relationships." This was getting confusing. "You and Princess Luna are friends. When do you have time to spend together and discuss me?" "When I'm on shift, of course. You may just stand there all day, but when she talks to me, I talk back. We really hit it off," Iridescence explained. "That wasn't against the regulations, but there were dangers in getting too close to the pony that you're guarding. Of course, you could also get in trouble being your partner's special sum pony, so who was I to throw stones?" "Very well, then. I'll escort Princess to her rendezvous with this CW pony." Iridescence laughed and said, "She's just going to go to CW's booth and get an autograph. Try to keep it light." Keep it light. It was a social event. I sat quietly, looked at our zombie game, and then planned tomorrow out in my head. I would need a map of the layout, a schedule of events, and information about where the guards would be patrolling. Tomorrow was going to be busy. The Equestrian Writers' Convention, or EWC as they seem to call it, was being held at the Canterlot Convention Center. It was more or less controlled chaos. There were ponies everywhere navigating narrow thoroughfares, trying to get a few minutes with their favorite authors. Some wore costumes, others seemed to have forgotten to bathe. It was a lot to keep track of, as I trailed behind Princess Luna. The princess seemed to be completely in her element. She stopped at booth after booth after booth, meeting ponies and talking shop. Much to my relief, most ponies were more interested in the conversation than the princess. Several asked to get pictures of her great Princess Luna cosplay, whatever that meant. Some ponies even insisted I be in the picture as well. "Princess, shouldn't we be getting to the rendezvous with CW?" I asked. Looking over her shoulder, the princess said, "She will be here all day, Silent Night. I am enjoying the conversation. Can't we simply enjoy it a while longer?" The look was something I'd never seen before. The princess was really having fun, and I think the idea of rushing through it made her sad. I stuffed the schedule into my saddlebag with all the princess's swag and smiled. "It would appear, Princess, that your schedule was just cleared." "Thank you," she said softly, and we went back to the convention experience. I kept behind her and collected the various things she brought or was given. It was actually kind of fun to see all the colorful booths. There were posters, banners, and displays featuring all types of literature. It was impressive to see, and I realized I should probably look into reading more. Being a soldier meant having a sharp mind, not just a sharp sword. Eventually, we found CW's booth and stood in line to meet her. CW was in a white unicorn with a brilliant blonde mane. There were little hints of pink sprinkled throughout, and she had it braided in the back. As I looked at her, I couldn't help but think she was somehow familiar. It was as if I'd seen her before, but I knew we had not met. I'd have remembered a pretty unicorn with a blonde pink mane. When we were about 3 ponies back, CW spotted us and seemed to get really concerned. She started hurriedly placing some of her books behind the booth's table while also signing copies for other ponies. As our turn came, she looked up in horror and said, "Princess Luna, what a wonderful surprise!" Princess Luna was looking past CW at the big banner announcing her new book, The Princess of the Night. Her mouth hung open. The cover featured a white Pegasus royal guard holding a blue alicorn princess in his arms, wings spread wide. He even held a sword high in the night sky and was looking rather dashing. It was clearly like one of the romance novels I always saw Iridescence hide in her footlocker. About that time, I noticed Princess Luna looking from CW, who stared on in horror for some reason, to the banner, and then to me. "Princess?" I asked softly, since she looked distressed. "Dost thou not see, Silent Night? That is clearly thou and I," she exclaimed, pointing a hoof at the banner. I looked again and didn't see it. "No, Princess," I raised a brow. "That stallion clearly has violet eyes. Mine are silver." CW sputtered, "Princess, it is loosely modeled after you. I hope you don't mind. It's just, I'm such a big fan. Everyone is so tired and typically Princess of the Sun romance, and I felt like it'd be your time to shine, so to speak." "Thou are a fan of ours?" Princess Luna asked. I am a fan of thou. I brought your book for thou to sign, Silent Night." I dug around in the saddlebag and pulled out Princess Luna's first edition hardcopy cover of The Mare's Temptation. CW took the book, opened the cover, her cheeks still flushed. "This is a real honor, Princess." She levitated a quill with her unicorn magic and started to sign. "What does CW stand for?" I asked curiously. There was a chorus of gasps, and I'm pretty sure a mare behind me fainted. Suddenly everyone was staring at me, including Princess Luna. "What?" I asked, looking around and preparing for an assault. CW laughed softly and shook her head. "No, it's all right. I'm sure you don't know, but it's normally appropriate to ask an author what their real name is. It helps us protect our anonymity," she explained. Tilting my head, I asked, "Anonymity? Like an alias, like criminals might have?" Princess Luna put her hoof over my muzzle and laughed nervously. "Nay, Silent Night, authors are celebrities, and they don't have overzealous house guards to protect them." With her other hoof, she tapped the book. "If you could just make that out to Luna." CW did just that, and I stood there quietly. "Thank you," the princess said before adding, "Come along, Silent Night. We would like to see some more booths before we leave." I nodded, and we started to make our way off along the booth. As we did, CW leaned across and offered a copy of The Princess of the Night, "Just for you." she added softly. Lately that evening, when I got home, I took a moment to open the book. She had written inside the cover, "Thank you for being a good sport. This will be our secret. Crystal wishes." She was right about that. I hid the romance novel in my footlocker. Acclimating to the idea that Princess Luna and Iridescence were friends was proving slightly difficult. The part of my mind that focuses on rules, regulations, and best practices kept tingling. It also didn't help that the two of them started to spend time together while I was on duty. "You should invite her to the palace. Make it an official function to honor one of the up-and-coming ponies in literature," Iridescence said. Princess Luna shifted on her couch. "I don't want to come across as a fan mare. It seems too eager to invite her so soon after the convention. There's also the matter that her latest book is clearly about Silent Night and I." Iridescence laughed softly and waved a hoof, loosely based. "I've read about halfway through. She gets Silent Night all wrong. He's a passionate swashbuckler who makes mares weak in the knees." "Speak only when spoken to. I'm right here," I said quietly. No pony seemed to notice, and that was fine with me. "Come now, Luna," Iridescence said so casually. It set me on edge. "If you'd like to meet her, meet her. Give her some small award. She'll be flattered." "Dost thou really think so? Would it not be abuse of royal power?" Princess Luna asked. "Why don't we ask the expert?" Iridescence mused, turning to me. "Silent Night, if the princess invites CW here to meet her, but also gives her an award, would it be an abuse of power?" I thought that over a bit. If the award is solely given for the excuse to meet CW, then yes, it is an abuse. If the princess intends to create a new award and give it on regular intervals, it is perfectly in line. Perhaps an annual award for best pony author. "Verily!" the princess exclaimed as she levitated her quill, ink, and parchment. She leapt from her couch excitedly and crossed to her desk. "Ponies should be awarded for work well done. We shall create the Equestrian Authors Award to honor one pony each year for their achievements." Iridescence got up and went to the desk to watch Princess Luna work. "You could form a committee after this year and help choose the most important literary works of the year and then vote on the winner." "That is a wise idea, Iridescence," the princess said as she scribbled away. "We will invite scholars and critics to help. After this year, of course." It only took a moment before she lifted the parchment and said, "Done! CW will be the first Equestrian Authors Award recipient. We must get this into the mail immediately." I softly cleared my throat and added, "And create the award." Both mares turned to stare at me, and the princess quickly nodded. "Yes, and create the award. I think a medallion shall do. Come along, we have much work to do." Iridescence walked next to the princess, while I stayed 1 pace left and 2 paces back. It was weird, but I suppose times were changing. Who was I to question the magic of friendship? The reporter ponies loved Princess Luna's idea to create a literature award. It was her first press conference, and it went extremely well. Iridescence and I were assigned to keep an eye on the event, but there really wasn't anything noteworthy security-wise. Everything worked out within the week. CW showed up in the palace to accept her award. The ceremony was elegant, brief, and low-key despite being held in the throne room. Princess Celestia, Captain Shining Armor, and its fiancée, Lady Miamore Cadenza, were some of the most notable guests. There were also a handful of reporters, critics, and Canterlot elite. I couldn't help but notice CW looked pretty nervous throughout the whole thing. Perhaps crowds bothered her. Not every pony is accustomed to being stared at by royalty. She was gracious, however, and her acceptance speech was most kind. She even thanked Princess Luna and I for being inspirations. I'd never been an inspiration before, and to be honest, I like the idea of inspiring unicorn ladies. Eventually, the official function wound down, and Princess Luna invited CW back to her office to talk shop. That was the goal, after all. Iridescence and I followed along as security. Once we were inside, I took my position. Iridescence didn't take hers. Instead, she went to the sitting area in uniform. I said nothing. "With your permission, Princess," Iridescence said, and was quickly given a nod. She took off her helmet, set it aside, and sat down. I guess that was okay. CW looked a bit confused and stopped mid-seat to say, "With your permission, Princess?" Princess Luna softly laughed and said, "Thou may call me Luna, and you may be seated." CW finished taking a seat and said, "Thank you." Iridescent cleared her throat. "As a royal guard, I need her permission to deviate from protocol. As her guest, you don't need to do so. You see, some royal guards are strict and completely by the book. They might take exception." "Oh, I see Silent Night won't be joining us," CW asked. Princess Luna smiled and started setting out tea. "Silent Night is one of those by-the-book guards. He likely feels some pony must be on security now, and should I invite him over, he would most be uncomfortable. Is that not correct, Silent Night?" "Yes, Princess," I said confidently. Some pony had to be on watch. "Oh," CW said, "what a shame." Turning back to the princess, she added, "Thank you so much for this award. I was worried you would be angry with me after you saw the Princess of the Night." "Angry? No. Confused initially. I am not very accustomed to being, well, included. Fitting in has been a struggle," Princess Luna admitted. CW nodded knowingly. "That is something I understood well. I almost never published a book because I was worried no pony would understand or like it." She accepted the teacup that floated to her, taking it over with her own magic. Unicorns made everything look easy. Princess Luna smiled a bit at that and sipped her tea. "I'm glad thou decided otherwise. We rather enjoy thy books, Iridescence and I." CW looked confused. "Iridescence?" With a gasp, Princess Luna said, "My apologies, how rude of me to forget proper introductions. CW, this is my friend Iridescence." She motioned to Iridescence. "Thou also know Silent Night already." Iridescence and CW shook hooves, while CW said, "It is a pleasure to meet you. My name is Crystal Wishes." That knowledge seemed to please both Princess and Iridescence. "If you please, Crystal Wishes, would thou share how thy come up with thy stories? I write a bit as well, but it would be amazing to learn about thy process." Crystal Wishes shifted a bit and said, "I don't think I do anything special, Princess. I just look for inspiration around me to start. What is something perfectly normal that I can just slightly tweak, and I build interest in a character and write organically." She sighed softly and smiled. "I idealize a bit. I write about guards or knights, and I hope that one day I can meet a real one, like the ones in my fiction." Princess Luna tilted her head and pointed a hoof at me. "But thou can! He is right here!" Iridescence softly snickered, and Crystal Wishes blushed. "Oh, no, I mean like the way I make them out in the book. I doubt Silent Night is anything like a brash, passionate, and dark stallion I write about." "You've certainly got that right," Iridescence said, and then giggled. They all giggled, in fact. "I'm in the room," I said softly. No pony seemed to have heard. Author's note: Silent Night attends his first convention. This is one of my favorite things to do for vacations. I worked out the details of this with Crystal Wishes. We thought the idea was pretty funny. After seeing Silent Night and Princess Luna at the store, she'd write a romance novel about it. Anyways, hope you guys have had a wunderbar day.